a human resource, that there is a malicious off-world entity or entities working with our government, and they have been for quite some time.
Welcome, Dave, to the Dave Darren Show. How's it going, Dave?
Real good.
Good,
It's been
good.
a while. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again. Now, by the way, Dave put me in a magazine at one point when I was a good-looking guy, and he made me up to look even better looking, and now look how horrible I look now, Dave. Age catches up with me, and I'll tell you something. Remember we went out that night, and people thought I was related to Alice Cooper? You remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Even though back then I was much better looking than Alice Cooper, but people still thought I was related to him. I think they actually thought I was Alice Cooper. Some of them did, which was even more
Probably.
weird. I don't,
You got the nose, man.
I've got the nose, right?
You got it.
I thought I had a nice nose, Dave. Don't I? I need a makeover of the nose. I need to have longer or shorter?
You're sexy as hell, but Alice is too, so. Hey, you can't complain about looking like Alice.
That's true. Although well, to look like a regular Alice, I got to go and do that transgendered stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I would look like that type of Alice. I know you're coming on the air to talk about some paranormal stuff, some experience that you've had.
I don't know. Are you familiar with Art Bell?
Oh yeah, in fact, the little thing I did before you came on is I had a little tribute to Art Bell. So I used to listen to Art Bell quite a bit, and I'll tell you why I listened to him. But go ahead, it's
Okay.
just talking about it all.
Basically, that was where I first heard about shadow people.
Okay.
And that was well after I had already had my event with a shadow person.
Okay, really? Okay.
I had really no idea or a way to put a name to what I saw or anything else.
Now, how long ago was this, by the way? I'm going to interrupt you periodically to chronologize.
Yeah, it was 1985.
Okay, 1985. Where were you? Were you like in a forest area? Were you where were you?
No, I was in bed in our apartment. My wife and I were recently married. She was pregnant with our daughter, so we had a little apartment in Mesa.
Uh-huh.
And I was in bed when this happened. So basically, you want me to get right into it?
Yeah. Now, I'm surprised you're in bed with your wife and you're looking for shadow people.
Well, I wasn't looking for them.
You weren't looking for them. Okay.
It just happened. It was a pretty crazy thing.
Scary? Were you scared at the moment?
Not really. It's funny because I've had a lot of years to kind of mull over what happened, and what I saw, and why my reactions were the way they were. But initially, basically where we were in bed, I just woke up. I have no idea why.
Uh-huh.
It's like I'm asleep, and all of a sudden I'm awake, and I look to the door that comes into our bedroom, and there's a figure there.
Now, was the door closed? Was the door open? What did it
The door
move?
the door was open.
Already it was open.
Yeah, the door's wide open. It basically goes into a hallway that goes to another bedroom. If you go to the right, you're in our bathroom. If you go to the left, you go towards our living room.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's kind of a little T there right outside the door. And I just see this figure, standing in the doorway. It's just a perfect figure of what I think I would have assumed to be probably a 24-year-old man.
Okay,
Is
now
what it looked,
let me
what
ask
it
you,
looked like.
let me ask you a question here. So now it's the doorway, it's nighttime, so it's
Mhm.
rather dark unless you had the hallway illuminated. Did you have the hallway lit at all?
No, it was dark.
It was dark. So now a shadow person comes out, but now the shadow has to have some kind of light entity for you to see it, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I can see it. There's enough light that, like, right behind me is a window
Uh-huh.
that's basically to our backyard. But it's a very tiny backyard in this little condo, and there's enough light filtering through the blinds on that
Uh-huh.
that there's plenty of light in the room.
Okay.
Not bright, but it's fairly dark. But it was easy to see this thing. It was
Okay.
definitely, and I think there was some light out in the hallway, but it was easy enough to see.
Okay.
And my dog, I had a miniature schnauzer at that time, and she was right at my feet in the bed, and she's like on her attention is 100% looking at this thing, and she's acting like she's holding herself back from just going after it.
Oh, and would your dog typically have gone, like if a human came in, would it have gone
Yeah.
after the human? So the,
I think she would, yeah.
so now the dog is sensing something out of the abnormal. Instead of going for a human, it's sensing something abnormal here that maybe he's a little bit not comfortable approaching this.
Yeah, it's hard to tell it's hard to tell what was going on in her head,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but I know that she definitely was seeing what I was seeing.
Now your wife's in bed with you too. Now, did your wife see this as well?
No, she's dead asleep.
Oh, she's not. And you didn't try to wake her up. Now, how long did this event take place? Like a short time, where she naturally wouldn't have woken up, or what?
Well, there was really the only movement or anything was just me kind of lifting up my head. I'm kind of, cricked up a little bit,
Uh huh.
probably up on my arm
Huh.
a little bit. But I'm just looking at this thing, and I could tell that this wasn't a person. Okay.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, if I thought there was a person there, me and the dog, we would have been up.
Oh
You
yeah,
know.
you would have hopefully have been armed, ready to attack that person if you carry an arm in your bedroom there. But, huh?
At that time, I did not.
Okay.
But I would have been up and on this guy for
Yeah,
sure. If
yeah.
if I thought this was a person, I would have been up and on it. But I honestly, I didn't think of it at that moment. Why I didn't think it was a person or anything. But with reflection, it's like honestly, it looked two-dimensional. There was
Okay.
no depth. It was just a perfect outline of a person,
Huh.
but there was no depth to it. There was enough light. That's why I say I know there was some light there, because I know there was enough light that how the light shows you the depth by shadow,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Right. Uh huh.
There was none. It just looked like a black outline. This looked as if you had basically taken a piece of cardboard and painted that stuff on it. It's just black.
Okay. Now.
So there's
Yeah. Now
no shading.
Now you said that you were asleep and you don't know why you woke up. If you think about it, can you think back and think, was I startled? Was there some kind of motion or something that touched me, or was it just a frame of mind that woke you up?
Yeah.
A frame of
Yeah,
mind woke you up.
Yeah, I was more like in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't, but it wasn't alarming or anything.
Uh huh.
I didn't, wake up and like, what's going on? It was
Right.
just kind of like an interest, like what is going on?
Now, when it was down the hallway, did it like approach? And what was the motion of it as it approached? Or did you just
No,
wake up at that static point?
it was just, if you can imagine, it was maybe a foot beyond the doorway
Uh-huh.
itself. It's just like a foot beyond it, dead center of the door, and it's
Uh-huh.
just standing there. I can see some movement.
Oh, I was going to
did
ask you.
move.
It moved. Okay. What part
It
of it
did.
moved? Like the hands moved, the legs moved, or was
Yeah,
there motion
just
approaching you, or what?
just very casual, slight movements. Very little movement.
Very little movement. Okay.
Just very little movement.
Any
So I'm
any attempt
really
to
just looking at it.
any attempt to contact you, or you didn't attempt to contact it because then you would have woken up your wife if you did, right?
Yeah, and I don't even think, I don't think I even had time to think about her. You know,
Right.
as far as do I want to wake her up? Do I want her to see this? I really wasn't there. I was trying to figure it out myself
Uh huh.
more than anything. Is what am I looking at? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really what I was. I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out what am I looking at.
Uh huh.
That's where I think my head was at. And I'm looking at the dog every once in a while because she's just like, like almost shaking, kind of like, like she's wanting to go, but she's holding herself back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of what my reaction has been so far. I don't know if she was already looking at it. Maybe that's what woke me up. Is maybe a movement from her.
Yeah. Could be. Right. Right.
You know, because I don't know if she saw it first or not.
Now how
I
long?
just know that I see it and I can tell she's looking at it.
How long did this last? Like, did it last like how many minutes did this last, or less than a minute? How long?
It's seconds. It's
Seconds.
I would say I'm probably looking at this thing for 10 to 15 seconds.
Okay. Now, how did obviously at this point of seeing that, you're not moving your head away. You're focused on it. So how did it leave? How did it vanish? Did it just dissipate and turn into a
No,
nothing, or how did it? How did
no,
it dissipate?
this is really the most interesting part. Basically, what it does from there is it just goes like that to the left, which would be towards our living room.
Okay.
And I mean fast. It was just like that.
And of course, it didn't knock into anything. There was no contact
Yeah.
made of anything in the room at all.
No, it just did that, and my dog was gone.
Oh,
She's
really?
running. She's like, straight out toward the living room. I can hear her running back and forth. She's going like towards our front door.
Yeah.
You go to the back, you go through the kitchen into a laundry room, and then she had a doggy door that went out into the yard. So I can hear her running back and forth. I hear her go out the doggy door, right back in again, into the house. She's just looking and smelling, and she's just running around the house looking for this thing.
Now, how about you? Didn't you go like at that point? I'm thinking if you
At
were
that-
asleep, you woke up kind of suddenly. You saw
Right.
this. 10 to 15 seconds later, it's gone. Whoosh! Your dog's running around like crazy. You get
Yeah,
out of
now
bed and
I'm-
start looking around, or what do you do? What do you do at
Yeah.
that point?
Yeah, I get up and I'm looking
Yeah.
around. I know I'm not going to see anything.
Right.
I can, just by what I saw,
Uh-huh.
there wasn't a sound at all. I knew I wasn't going to see anything, but I did get up and I'm trying to, calm the dog down because I knew I'm not going to see anything.
Right. Now,
She would have been freaking out if she had gotten hold of something.
Oh yeah. Now, did your wife wake up at that point? Because the dog's whooshing around, so probably your
Yeah.
wife at that point noticed some disturbance in the house and it woke her up.
Oh yeah, she got up at that point because I'm out of bed. I'm basically because I'm against the wall. The bed's against the wall, so I've got to go over her. I'm basically crawling over her to fly out of bed.
Yeah.
But like I say, I wasn't like in any kind of a panic I wasn't that bothered by it, to be honest.
That's kind of weird that you weren't bothered by it. Like you weren't. Most people would either be thinking it was something really freaky, and it would bother them and sort of alarm them to a degree.
Right.
Or some people would think that they'd be confused. But did you tell your wife she must have said, "What's the dog freaking out about?" And did you tell her
Oh yeah.
what
She heard the whole story.
she heard the whole story? What did she think about
Yeah.
the whole story?
Um, Not much.
Not
I don't
much.
think. I don't think it. I've told this story to really to not that many people, but probably, like my current wife. She's heard about it, and she's just like, okay,
Uh huh.
doesn't really know what to. I don't think most people know what to think about it. I don't. My deal is, I think I'm a Christian. I come from a place where I don't believe in ghosts. I do believe in spirits.
Uh huh.
A lot of I follow a lot of science things that are going on, and I've been watching a lot of stuff that's talking about kind of string theory stuff, things like that. The way that our world is probably much different than what we think it is, as far as how we're made up. If you listen to a lot of what's going on today, they're talking about us being very much like a computer simulation.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's the way that I see a lot of science going, as far as the way that things are working with us.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, it makes sense to me. I don't pretend to think that I know everything based on whether on my faith, my beliefs because of my faith, or because of my head for science. Because I've done a lot of, I do architecture and stuff. I've done a lot of engineering classes.
Uh-huh.
I'm interested in a lot of things like that. Honestly, my thing is, I believe that harmonics has a lot to do with our makeup, really from the universe. Okay, the way that what's keeping the universe where it is.
Uh-huh.
It's just a string that is making a movement. It's a vibration.
The only thing I know about string theory is from watching The Big Bang Theory and Sheldon talking about it. Other than that,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the string theory. Let's get back to the story on the shadow people. So
Yeah.
now, since then, you've never seen anything else since that 85 or 86 or whatever it was. Nothing else like that.
I've seen something else, but not like that. But I was working at a hospital in Phoenix, and after school I would go there, and basically we did like the food prep, and I pushed like these carts that had the trays for this, all the patients.
Uh-huh.
They were big metal pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a stack of those that I'm trying to throw up on top of a stack of a lot more of them.
Right.
And I kind of toss them up, and I didn't get it high enough. So they come down, and basically my hand hits the table. Those things cut right in the middle of my hand, of my palm. All the bones right across my palm just crack.
Wow.
I could feel it, hear it, it's just crunch, and my hand in seconds, it swelled up like a ball. I mean, it was just huge.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just seconds. So my supervisor, Jim, is in the other room. I walk in, and I tell Jim, I'm like, just hold up my hand, and I'm like, I broke my hand, so I'm going to run to the emergency room. So I'm in the right place.
You're in the right place, right.
So I'm like, I'm just going to run to the emergency room. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, by his stripes you are healed.
Huh.
I didn't know what that meant. I'm in high school at this time. I didn't know what that meant at all. But I turned around and went back in the other room, and I got on the back end of that dishwasher, and I started what we call catching. stacking all the dishes that are coming out of the dishwasher. Not a thought in my head. I just walked back in there and start stacking dishes.
With the hand that should have been seriously hurt, and you're doing this.
Correct. And it's like the whole memory of what had just happened was gone. It wasn't even there. I just walked in there and went back to work, and then all of a sudden, a few minutes later, it struck me. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? I'm looking at my hand and it's perfect.
Huh.
I'm like, what just happened? So
well, was there any proof? Was there any proof of what happened? Because when the trays fell and they hit your hand, there must have been a series of blood all over the place, right?
No, it was all internal.
It was all internal. Okay, so there was no like remnants or any markings of what took place where you could have walked back and looked and seen, oh, there is a trail of blood there. There was no blood at all at this point.
No, there's nothing. It was all internal. Which is why my hand was swelling so much.
Yeah.
It was because it was bleeding into there.
Right.
Right. That probably busted some arteries open that were bleeding into my hand. And that's why it just swelled like instantly.
So then you're back at the washing station, and suddenly it dawns on you of what took place. Did you go back to Jim and say, Jim, what happened there?
Yeah, I walked back in, and what I said to him is, I said, that worked. And he's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, what did that mean? And he explained to me what by his stripes meant, that Jesus took the whips, and it says in the Bible, by his stripes you're healed. He took that for our healing.
Right.
So he explained that to me. And I was like, okay.
Now there's a guy who should be on your cell phone number that you can text message anytime you need him.
I wish. Yeah.
What happened to him? That's a job you don't quit either. I'd stay there forever. I'd retire at that place.
I don't know what happened to Jim. I don't know if he quit first or if I did.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
I'll have you back on again at some future point, okay, when I have a larger audience.
Sounds good.
Or maybe I should say an audience at all. All of my audience are shadow people. Like I can't see them. I don't know where they're at. So
they're very two-dimensional.
Yeah, they're two-dimensional. Thanks a lot for being on the show.
Sounds good. Be good.
Okay, cheers.
Do you know the Dave Darren Show?
Hot enough to boil a monkey's bum.
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Are you a puff duck?
He used to be on terrestrial radio, but he got fired.
Here comes the boss fella now.
Dave Darren.